What is up, y'all? This is Wil, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Schedulefly is a super simple restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service, and we are at a low price point. We have not raised our prices since 2007. Y'all, if you're on pencil and paper or Excel, or you don't have a scheduling software in your restaurant, Schedulefly will make life easier. I will promise you that. If you're on another scheduling provider, you are probably paying a lot more money than you need to for a lot of things that you don't use, and you may not have great customer service. So Schedulefly is all about super simple software, legendary customer service, and a low price point. Ask around, look around. We have a 30-day free trial. You can go to schedulefly.com, sign up for a free trial. We are not going to get your credit card, and we are not even going to call you and try to close the deal. We're there if you need us. Otherwise, we stay out of the way. Give it a try. Ask around. Or if you have any questions, you'll find my cell phone number right there on the website on 3 pages. Thank you all for listening to this podcast and watching this podcast. We have done over 500 episodes now, and we're just getting warmed up. Appreciate y'all. Please give us a rating or a ranking or a thumbs up or a comment or something. Love you. See ya. Today's episode is brought to you by Restaurant Store, the ultimate destination for restaurant pros. Whether you're launching a new cafe or prepping for the holiday rush, we've got you covered with top-notch equipment and everyday essentials, all at unbeatable prices. And right now, you can score $50 off your order of $250 or more when you use this code, WebSave50. All together, all one word, all caps, WebSave50 at checkout. Again, that's WebSave50, WEBSAVE50. But act fast, because this deal ends December 31st. Visit restaurantstore.com to keep your kitchen running strong. All right, Miss Chrissy.
Hey, what's happening?
Introduce yourself.
Chrissy Ouellette, Greenville, South Carolina. So I made a nice little drive. It was a nice, beautiful day.
Yeah.
It's been raining for past 3
It's been
days.
nasty.
It's been cold. Yeah. So Chrissy Ouellette, VP of Business Development and Enterprise Sales at Touchpoint Restaurant Solutions.
Touchpoint. I am looking forward to talking to you about Touchpoint.
Yeah.
And what you're doing now. So, but before we get into that, let's see here. Well, first of all, you and I first spoke probably 2 or 3 years ago, I guess. You were at Spot On at the time. I can't even remember how we got.
Scott Euclid.
Scott Euclid connected us.
Scott Euclid.
Yes.
I
love that dude. He's a great dude.
I love that dude too. Yeah, he's such a great guy. I always had so much fun. We used to travel together. We have stories to tell. We've been all over this country together. And, Scott he used to be a chef, and he's like, a true chef, trained. San Francisco.
He's legit.
He's legit.
Yeah.
And so we all got into this habit of leaning on Scott to order all of our dinner. And then I always hated to have to put my corporate credit card down when Scott ordered dinner, because we had one of everything on the menu, but it was fantastic. It was a great time. But Scott's a great dude. I loved working with him. But he introduced us because Scott and I ran partnerships at Spot On. And I think you guys had done some business together at one of his restaurants.
Yep. Hagen Rocks.
Yep. And I remember him saying, you got to listen to this guy's podcast. Chrissy, Will's in Charlotte. He's really close to you guys. You guys need to connect. And then I think eventually we winded up connecting and had coffee together one morning a few years back, and I think we've been kind of fast friends since then.
Yeah, I mean, so Scott, he's been on this podcast.
Yep.
He owned Hagen Rocks in San Francisco, and we've done 2 books called Restaurant Owners Uncorked, and the second one, it's been a while. I think that was in 2017, but he was featured in that book.
Yep.
Because I would just get the best stories over the course of a few years and be like, okay, that guy, that lady, this, and like they're the stories that stood out. We'll put them in the book or whatever.
Yep.
But and then I remember him calling me and saying, I'm closing up shop, and
I know. Sad.
getting out of the restaurant business, and it was like 3 or 4 years, and I had not even heard his name, and then somehow we got reconnected. But
he worked at a couple of different like software companies before he came to Spot On. But he's a riot. That guy's a lot of fun, and get him laughing and telling jokes, and he has everybody rolling. I miss my Spot On family dearly. I really do.
you've always spoken really highly of those folks.
Yeah.
Since you were there and since you left. Well, okay. So, Miss Chrissy, you have been in this world of like hospitality tech service providers for a while. Where did it all start?
Well, I love to say that it started when I was 15 years old, and my very first job was at Sonic in Tazewell, Virginia, and I was a car hop, and I delivered food to people's car on roller skates.
That's so freaking awesome. Is Tazewell, is that up there, like near the, is it in the mountains? Is it
It's
near
in the
West
mountains
Virginia?
in southwestern Virginia. So
Southwestern
probably
Virginia.
an hour-ish from like Blacksburg, where Virginia Tech is, more like southwest.
Like
of
down 81.
Yeah, down 81, down
Yeah.
77, Route
Okay.
460. So I grew up in the middle of literally nowhere. Like, don't blink your eyes, you'll miss. Like, teeny tiny town. Only 2 high schools in the entire county. I think my graduating class is like 140 people.
Yeah.
My dad was a coal miner.
Yeah.
So, like, life was tough. Life was hard. And I got my first job at 15, and it was at the Sonic, and I was, dumping cherry limeades in people's laps and in their cars, and talk about embarrassing. But I started working the restaurant there, and, I moved to, I think I've worked at a Western Sizzlin'. I don't know. Do they still exist? I don't know if they exist anymore.
I grew up around here. I definitely remember them. I don't know if they do.
Yep. So I did that. And then I worked for a little local spot called J. Walters, hosting, waiting tables. And, I've worked in the 4 walls of a restaurant literally from the time I was 15 until probably like into my 30s. Even, when I started out in the credit card processing, I still bartended a little bit on the side. It was just kind of in my veins to be in that hustle, bustle, chaos. I really enjoyed it. I loved talking to people, serving them, making their day better. And then I started in the payment space, and I found myself always drawn to being inside of the restaurant, even from that perspective, and trying to help them out there. And then the payments company I was working for, they launched a POS system. And, they were just a reseller of a POS system back this was like in the early 2000s, dating myself a little bit. So I liked selling the point of sale system, and that really kind of got me going from like a restaurant tech perspective. And from there, I just, I Spot On started, and then we launched the loyalty program in 2011, and I was a part of launching that very first product of Spot On. We were selling that to restaurants and small boutiques and SMBs throughout the United States. And then Spot On acquired Imagine, and I ran that hospitality division for 4 years. And, kind of the rest is history. Lunchbox and now Touchpoint.
Well, so Spot On started as what was the product?
Spot On was one of the very first tablet-based loyalty companies in the country. So I don't know if you recall, like Belly Card, Level Up, 5 Star, and Spot On. We all kind of launched around the same exact time, and it was, it took paper punch cards and turned it digital, where now you got a QR code and you scan it on a tablet and you get your points and you redeem your points, and so we did that for. We did that for about 2 years, but that product had a very short shelf life because then people wanted that integrated into the point of sale or integrated into the payment device and so on and so forth. So, that took a little bit of a backseat until they could figure out, what do we do next?
Yeah.
And so then they built some more technology and acquired Imagine and launched Spot On Restaurant. And I spent, 4.5 years there. It was a lot of fun. I had probably the best time of my life working there.
Good time there.
It was a good time.
First of all, I have to say this. So one of my favorite all-time songs is Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yeah.
So you're literally a coal miner's daughter.
Literally, like generations. My dad even drove a coal truck hauling coal from the mine to, wherever they were delivering it. And my uncles all worked in the coal mines. My grandparents worked in the coal mines. And, the coal mines was a really, really big deal in southwestern Virginia when I was growing up. And a lot of the mines have mined out and, all the things that have kind of happened to the coal industry over the last 30 years or whatnot. But yeah, grew up in the coal mining. There was, it wasn't a big deal to see my dad come home covered in coal dust with his miner's hat on, and all you could see is the circles of his eyes from his goggles from wearing them in the coal mines. Yeah.
There's another song called "The Mountain" by Steve Earle, which is about coal miners. I have a very fond affection for people that have been in that profession. I think there's some of the most decent, honest, hardworking, amazing people that we have.
There's some really great documentaries on Netflix and on YouTube in regards to the Appalachian coal miners.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched any of them, I would encourage you to watch them. I spent a couple of months ago, I spent an entire day just literally going down memory lane because a lot of those places are like my old stomping grounds.
Well, I was going to ask, is your family still there? Do you still go back home?
Yeah, a lot of my family is still there. My mom is still there in Richlands. My aunts, my uncles, some of my cousins and myself. My sister lives down in Greenville where I live. Some of us have kind of moved out. I have a cousin that lives here at Lake Norman up in Charlotte, up past Charlotte. But yeah, most of my family is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful country, it's great people. Did you hear about what happened? Because this is not far from you. After Helene, up there in Chimney Rock, those miners came down from West Virginia. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
And, cleared out that area to build a road over to Bat Cave,
absolutely.
And just got their equipment.
Yeah.
Didn't ask permission. Didn't. Just went down and did it. I love that.
Me too. That's a great story.
So much. Oh.
Sometimes, you know what? To get things done, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Well, okay. So here we go. So that I know that about you. And that's, you know what? I admire that about you. It's hard to, you've worked in some big organizations where there's going to be, just because of the size of a company, there's red tape, there's bureaucracy, there's lots of people that have to get on board, things move slow. And I'm going to guess, from what I've come to learn about you, that you're probably not somebody who wants to just sit and wait for stuff to get done.
It's funny. You start out in your career and obviously you never know what direction it's going to take you. And if I go back to my coal mining days, I guess I could say, I never would have ever thought that I would be, where I am today, right? You never have a clue as to where you're going to wind up or what industry you're going to land in and what profession, how it's all going to play out or whatnot. And then you learn a lot about yourself along the way. Uh-huh. And with every company I've worked for, with every team I've worked with, I have learned so much about me and really what makes me tick. And one of the things that I learned, at Spot On in the early days, we were small. I was one of the first, one or two true employees when we launched Spot On the first time. And it was great. Right? There's a few of us. We were making decisions so fast. We were growing. We were running by the seat of our pants, 100 miles an hour. And then Spot On grew. And then we launched Spot On Restaurant. And I think when we launched Spot On Restaurant, we may have had 250, 300 employees. And then when I left in March of 2022, there's 2,500 employees there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people.
And that's a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
That's a lot of decision makers.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of meetings to make a decision.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned in that venture is that I don't really do well in big companies.
Yeah.
I like to move quickly. I like to make decisions, good decisions, right? And I think the beauty of working in smaller startups is it's okay to make decisions and fail, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be able to fail quickly and pivot quickly. And we did that really, 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 really well at Spot On in the early days.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. And one of the things that I, have always commended Zach and Matt, who are the founders of Spot On, and those guys they hold a super special place in my heart. Like, I really wouldn't be where I am today if they didn't give me the opportunities that they gave me.
Yeah.
And they know that I feel that way, and I stay in touch with them. And RJ Horsley, who is the president and COO when I came to work, when we launched Spot On Restaurant, like, they're just good human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I owe a lot to them. And I always make sure to try to give them a big shout out anytime I get an opportunity to because they've always been very good to me. But that was one of the things that I loved working. Like, they didn't care if you made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
They wanted you to own it. If you made the mistake, you had to own it.
Yep.
But like, how are we going to fix it? And let's move quickly to fix it.
Yep.
And I think that when you work in that sort of environment, it really gives you the opportunity to grow as a person, grow as a leader. And the mentorship that comes from that is invaluable. So along my journey, I've learned that I don't love working for gigantic companies.
Mm-hmm.
I really am a builder. I like to get in at the ground level, and I like to put processes in place, and I like to see, the little seed like grow into a seedling and then grow into a plant. And then next thing you know, it's like a tree. And that to me is really, really fulfilling. And I also learned about me is like, I'm not one of those people that really does well, like, okay, here's your little box. Here's your duties. And this is what you are supposed to do. And don't color outside these lines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't do well with that at all.
Which comes in a lot of times in bigger companies, although maybe that sometimes comes with smaller ones.
I haven't found it with smaller companies, definitely with much larger companies.
Yeah.
I've really, with the smaller companies, have had a lot of autonomy to be very creative and try a lot of different things to see if they'll work.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first job out of college was at Nations Bank, which is now Bank of America.
Yeah. That's a big company. Yeah, you could never put me there. I would fail
3.5 years.
miserably.
Oh, God. I mean, I didn't know that.
You were a banker, dude?
Dude, I was.
I did not. I don't think I knew that about you.
I was a banker, and but was not cut out for corporate America because I can't keep my mouth shut. And I'd be like, "This is stupid," and people would be like, "You don't say that." And I'm like, "Why don't you say it? It doesn't make sense. Like, why don't we change it?" I just wasn't cut out. It's fine. It's just that it didn't work. So, and then my first company we had, where all 5 of us at ScheduleFly came from, was called First Research, and our customers were banks. So I spent a lot of, like, my drawings my kids made of me, you wouldn't think this because of the way, you pretty much see me. I've always got a hat on and probably a beard and a t-shirt.
Yep.
But all my daughters and my first son's drawings of me are like dad in like a suit because even though I was working for First Research, I was, our customers were banks. And back then, this is like in the early 2000s. So I'd go on a lot of trips. And if I went and met with some, head of commercial banking at pick your favorite bank in some big city, I had on a suit because that person had on a suit, and so I was wearing so once we started the ScheduleFly thing, it took me a while to like unwind from like that sort of like more professional type world. But I tell you, nothing against bankers, love y'all, you're great. And that was a wonderful business, but man, there is just to kind of dovetail into something I know you're going to agree with here is that there is nothing better than serving restaurant people. I mean, it is like the coolest freaking industry ever. And the people in this industry collectively, there's always outliers, but I mean, by and large, are just incredible people. They are giving, caring, thoughtful, kind. They work their freaking asses off.
Yep.
Really, really, really hard in an extraordinarily hard business that I don't think most people understand how hard it is to be successful in this business because of all the different pieces of the puzzle that have to fit together for it to work day in and day out, 24/7, 365. Man, it is like the coolest freaking industry to serve.
Yep.
It really
No,
is.
I totally agree with you. And I feel like once like you get it kind of in your blood, it's really hard to, because when I left Lunchbox back, gosh, I guess, going on a year now. I left Lunchbox in like maybe March or April or May. I can't even remember. I kind of thought about getting out of the industry. I wanted to stay in tech, but I kind of thought maybe I should go like try to do something else, like serve another industry. Like I want to stay in tech, but because I really do love technology. Like technology's cool. And the things that we're able to do with technology is really kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I think that you and I are the same age. I think the evolution in tech that we've seen over our lifetime has been really incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from like rotary dial telephones, like on a cord,
Yep.
to, some of us have a computer that we walk around with. You, on the other hand, are still, you haven't, I know you made the leap. You made the leap and then you went backwards, which you've told me the story why you did it, and I cannot respect that more than because it's awesome that you set that boundary for yourself, because some of us don't have the capability of doing that. But it's really interesting that the restaurant industry, and I know from like the tech side, I feel like, and even some of the brands that we work with and that, we see at conferences a lot, it's like a big family.
Yeah, it sure
We
is.
really are like a big family, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's an incredible group of people. And it's been interesting too, Chrissy, because, this industry has traditionally been pretty low tech and behind the tech curve. And that's changed a lot. When we got ScheduleFly going, if you had asked me in 2007, 2008, how long will it be before every single restaurant in the country has a employee scheduling software that replaces pen and paper?
Sure.
Right? I would have been like, 10 years at the most, like 7 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are 17 years later, and there's literally still tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of restaurants that don't have a scheduling software.
Which is wild.
Which is crazy to me. But great. But so the point being that like when you're in tech,
mm-hmm.
you see like the future, if you will, like this is how things should be or could be. It's very easy to project that forward as if that's going to just happen.
Sure.
And the reality is it's the adoption curve is typically pretty long, but there eventually is an inflection point. Like most restaurants are, you used to have cash registers and whatever, and people were just kind of going to point of sales, or then they had these legacy point of sales, and then everything started moving to the cloud, and now most of it is, and that shift has kind of happened. But it was an industry that was notoriously pretty low tech, slow to adopt tech, but there has been, over the last 10 years, billions, and I mean billions, like lots of billions of dollars invested into restaurant tech.
Sure.
It's everywhere now.
Yep.
And a large part of that was because the money was free. For 10 years.
And the pandemic played a huge role.
Free money, pandemic forced people to change.
Yep.
And so now it's interesting to see where all this kind of is going to shake out. Because I think there's way too much tech. And
Couldn't agree more.
I can't imagine being an operator and I feel like you would just be constantly, like just trying to hold off somebody trying to sell you some tech.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was introduced to someone at a brand that makes tech decisions a couple of weeks ago from a good friend, kind of a referral partner of mine and Touchpoints. And when I reached out to the person that I was introed to at the brand, they responded to me and they said, we evaluate tech partners twice a year, in May and in October, because we get hundreds of emails on a weekly basis with somebody trying to sell us their best-in-class solution. And you know what? Good for them. Good for them for setting boundaries. Good for them for not allowing everybody and their brother to disrupt them on a regular basis, and set those boundaries. But also, thank you, brand. Thank you, person who answered and was transparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
for
transparency is so important. Like, I'm in sales. I would 1,000 times rather hear, we don't have the budget for you. We don't like your product. We like what we got. Whatever I don't like the color of your hair. I don't care what it is. But don't ghost. Like, that's rude.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, so many times throughout my career, I'm about to get on the soapbox.
Let's do it.
I don't know where this went. I
Bring
don't
it.
know how this happened. But so many times in my career, I've always been on the sales side or the BD side or whatever. And I love it. I love it. I love the adrenaline pump of working a deal. I love everything about it. But so many times I have had situations where I've been ghosted, and people have been less than professional. And then all of a sudden, those people need something. And they need something from me. And guess what? They come around forgetting that they ghosted me.
Yeah.
Or forgetting that they were unprofessional to me. Or forgetting that they stood me up for a meeting or whatnot. And so I think my point here is that we're all in this together. Brands have a brand to run, and we get that. A lot of us just want to help you. And if our solution is not the right solution for your brand, I'm going to say it. Have the balls to say that.
Yeah.
And be transparent.
Yeah.
It's super simple, right? And then we'll all get along a little bit better, because you never know when that's karma. And I'm a firm believer in what you put out is what you get back.
Yeah.
And that's always going to come back to you. So, let's all be respectful of each other in this industry. But talking about too much tech, yes, there's too much tech. 25, 30 different tech vendors to run a restaurant. And you wonder why your profits are 7%, 8%, 10%.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's like,
Yeeks.
it's already such a tight, thin margin business. I understand the appeal and the pitch.
Sure.
But there's a lot. I had a restaurant owner say something to me recently. I mean, he just nailed it, I think. He said, Wil, look, there is an incredible amount of tech out there right now for restaurants that was designed by somebody who never worked in a restaurant, that sounded cool to some venture capital group that has never worked in a restaurant.
Sure.
And all of them agreed that if restaurants would just use this, the restaurant would be successful.
Yep.
And he goes, it's amazing how much tech gets pushed on us that just
It's
doesn't
garbage.
do what we need it to do at a whether they think it should or not.
Yeah.
But the gap and the disparity is really wide. And I think that people are starting to see that. And I'm glad to know that there's companies that are only looking at tech, a certain times a year. I've got to imagine. Well, I know this is in case with employee scheduling, but I think that there's a lot of restaurant groups, franchises, whatever, chains that are going, particularly the mom and pops and the smaller groups and stuff that are looking at like wait a minute, I'm sorry, how many tech tools do we have right now? And how much are we paying every month for all that? And every piece of those was supposedly going to bring in more revenue or save us cost or whatever. But like you add up and go, wait a minute, how could this possibly make sense?
Yeah, it's funny. I was at an event, a conference back in the fall, and I was sitting in on this panel. I was listening, and the panel was about tech stacks. And so when the panel started, the moderator said, "Panel, please introduce yourself, your brand, give us your tech stack list." And so this gentleman introduced himself and the name of his brand, which is a older brand that's been around for a lot of years. And he starts rattling off this enormous list of tech providers. Then he gets down to the last one, and the last one was this. I really chuckled at this. He gets down to the last one, and the last one was his point of sale system, and it was a fairly old legacy system. And I laughed because I'm like, okay, so you're using all these fancy AI tools and, all of these fancy things, and then you're still running your restaurant on like a legacy point of sale system. But my point is this. I would love for every brand to do an audit of all of their tech vendors and the cost, of what they're paying on a monthly basis or per usage basis, however they're being billed for those. And then I would also like them to audit their team's time and how much time they spend working with those products, on customer support calls, on technical support calls, working out the kinks of those products and the integrations and all of those things. And then I would like them to figure out what is the ROI, whether that be time saved, labor cost, revenue in the door, user experience, and add it up and then look at the number.
Yeah.
And because, back before we had this big tech boom, before the pandemic, restaurant profit was really floating somewhere between 12 and 15%, right? And then the boom of DoorDash and Uber Eats that's taking 20 or how much ever percent that is. And then, your AI and your AI that's answering your phone, which I'm old school. If I'm calling you on the phone, I probably want to talk to you and not a robot. But maybe I'm abnormal. I don't know. But I'd love to see what is their ROI and can you get rid of some of that to get your profit back up?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need all those people managing all these tech pieces. Maybe they can do something else.
Yeah.
I'm not for tech replacing people. I think people is why the hospitality industry exists.
Yeah.
Right? When I go out to dinner, I want to talk to a human.
Yeah.
I don't want to input my own order in a device. I'm going to be taken care of and, served and have a conversation with somebody. So I would love for brands to do that because I think that we are entering an era where tech fatigue is real. Mm-hmm. I think vendor fatigue is real. Mm-hmm. And I think that there has to start being some consolidation.
Oh, there's going to be. There's going to be consolidation because that free money comes with a time frame. And so all that money that came in, in the last 5 to 10 years is
the VC money
that's ready for a return.
Yeah.
And so in 2025, by the way, I'm just winging it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I bet you.
Well, you were a banker.
Mark my words right now. We're timestamp this. You're going to see a lot of M&A activity in 2025 with tech. There's firms. I know one of our competitors just laid off 40 people. They laid off 80 people earlier in the year.
Wow.
Why is that? Well, how do we determine a valuation for a tech company? Well, it's either going to be top line revenue or EBITDA or some combination. If revenue, they want the rule of 40, right? If your growth rate and your EBITDA is 40% somehow or another, one way they add up to 40% or more, then you're in good shape.
Right.
Well, if revenue is not growing enough, well, okay, let's just cut these people and get up our EBITDA. And that's going to happen. There's no doubt that's going to happen. And it should, because there's just so much. The flip side of that is it sucks because like people are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And but there will be VCs want their money. You got private equity that entered, in the last 3 to 5 years. Some of these big companies they're looking to, do something with them. So I'm thankful that we're not in that space. And you are a bootstrapped.
Yep. Bootstrap, self-funded.
Tell me the story. You've told me a little bit before, but tell me this. How did this all come together? Because I think
sure.
I had forgotten that y'all were bootstrapped, and I think you posted something about it on LinkedIn recently.
I did.
I was like, oh.
I love to tell. If I believe in something, I love to kind of share it with the industry and the folks that tune into my LinkedIn. I think most people know I'm pretty active on there because I have a lot to say, and I want to share it.
I mean, you do.
I do. I have a lot to say. I can be quite long-winded. But so Touchpoint, Restaurant Solutions. Actually, the product itself, I don't want to say the product's finished because I don't think any tech product is ever finished. But with that being said, the product has been in build for about 7.5 years. And which is really kind of crazy to think about, right? Because most tech companies, they spin up a product and they take it to market and they push it out there. And in my opinion, a lot of products that are on the market today that are being pushed, they're MVP. Mm-hmm. And they're building and flying at the same time. And if that works for you and if that works for your clients, that's fantastic. But our CEO and founder didn't want to do that. He wanted to build a really solid product and have several big proofs of concept that the product is rock solid before taking it to market. And
remind me his name.
His name is Israel.
Israel.
Yes.
Okay.
Israel Laharoux.
All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Don't ask me how to spell it because I still can't get it right, and I can barely pronounce it. But so Israel is an engineer by trade, which is really awesome. He's a Stanford grad. He worked as an engineer for BMW in Germany. He actually was on the team that created the X series, which is manufactured right in my hometown in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, sure.
So that's kind of a cool story. And then he also was in the IT and infrastructure space before launching what you see today that is Touchpoint. And really cool, most of the websites that are in this world, if you're interacting with that website, you are touching technology that Israel built himself.
Wow.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that he is an engineer and that we are truly a product-led organization versus a sales-led organization is super refreshing. So he built this amazing product.
Why did he build it? What was
So he was in Italy with his family, and they had dinner at this old Italian restaurant in Italy, and they had their kids, and they had their gelato, and they had their macaroons, and all of these things. And, in old Italy, they don't have point-of-sale systems. They're still writing things down, and you're using cash and, all of that. And so 6 months later, they go back to the same restaurant, and the team was family-ran restaurant. They remembered them, and they remembered the kids, and they remembered took note of the kids' gelato flavors and the kids' macaroon flavors and what they had to drink and their favorite wine that they had there. And it really made a huge impression on him that, if they can do this with pen and paper and memory, we can build technology that can do this for restaurants in the United States. We've really moved away from hospitality. Mm-hmm. We've moved away from the hospitable part of hospitality. You walk into a store, you do a kiosk. And if that works for you, it's great. But, and we do those. We have a kiosk, but we've added some parts to it that make interacting with a brand personal again. And so that's what Israel went out and built. And so like at the nucleus of our product, you've got, they went out and the first thing they did was build CDP, CRM, and data and analytics at the core. Okay. So then the next part was, okay, so we have this awesome nucleus. We can go out and we can do integrations to all of these things to push the data into that nucleus, or we can build all those things ourselves, have everything on one code base, so you get a true omnichannel experience. And so POS, Linebuster, KDS, mobile app, online ordering, loyalty, gift cards, one-to-one personalized messaging, one-to-one marketing, and offers and rewards. Literally all on the same platform. No integrations needed. No break in the system.
Yeah.
Nothing to keep up with from, if POS system updates their API, now the loyalty company has to, update the integration, and then it doesn't work properly, whatever. And so the beauty of it is if I'm a loyal member to a Touchpoint brand, when I place an order on my app and then I go in the store and I put my telephone number in because that's a unique identifier, the person taking my order can see all of the orders that I placed before. And if I've labeled one of those as my favorite, they can say, hey, Chrissy, do you want your favorite iced caramel macchiato today? Yes. One touch, reorder straight to the barista to make my coffee. Helps with throughput. You just made my transaction very personal because you called me by my name, because you can see that since I put my phone number in. And you know what I like to drink.
Yeah.
And I don't have to sit there and rattle out iced caramel macchiato, give me a medium, no fat milk, extra shot of this, blah, blah, blah. 10 minutes later, I don't really drink my coffee like that. So I was just making that up. But I don't have to do that anymore with Touchpoint.
Yeah.
I label my favorite. If I buy you coffee every day, you can even send me your favorite in my app.
Yeah.
And when I put my phone number in, I can say, oh, also give me Wil's drink as well. And I don't have to rattle it off. It's there. POS, kiosk, mobile app, online ordering, all the same thing. And then the other piece of that is because we have our CDP and our CRM, we have some machine learning built into it that learns all of the customers, right? It learns my transactional behavior. It learns what time of day I come. It learns, am I a vegan? It learns, do I drink sugar-free drinks? It learns all these things about me. So then you can set up personalized campaigns to go out to your customers based on their spending and their transactional habits.
Yeah, personalized campaigns. Okay.
To happen. So, for example, if I go to a place and every single time I order a salad and I don't get any cheese on it and I don't get any protein on it, the likelihood of me being a vegan is probably fairly high, right? So it doesn't make sense as a brand to send me a limited time offer for a chicken sandwich.
Right.
I've never eaten a chicken sandwich at that brand. Why would you send me an offer for that?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's just blanketed, right?
Yeah.
Let's just send out chicken sandwich offer.
Yeah.
But because of the machine learning that we have built into our marketing piece, I get one-to-one targeted offers based on my behavior. And the likelihood of me using those drastically
Much higher.
increases.
Yeah, sure.
To drive revenue. So because the machine is doing all the work for marketing to market to those loyal customers and those repeat offenders, now the marketing team can take the dollars that they would generally spend on loyal customers, and they can spend that money on going after new customers to increase revenue and then to increase the AUV for each location. It's really, I'm almost every day that I dive deeper into this product, I'm blown away. I'm blown away at the things that they thought about. I'm blown away at how easy it is to use. We had one of our franchise be interviewed by a company recently, And the franchisee said, the product is so easy to use. Any 18-year-old could walk in here on day one and pick up one of the line busters and take orders without any training.
That's impressive.
It's unbelievable.
Well, easy to use is not something that you hear a lot with restaurant tech. So I love the origin story.
Yeah.
And the inspiration for this.
Yep.
And here we are these years later. And so...
And it's just now taking it to market. We have about...
I was going to say, how many... So where are we today?
Yeah.
How many employees are there?
Yeah.
And what's...
So I was hired about 125 days ago to come in and take the product to market. We have about... We're so tiny. We have 27 employees. So
You're huge.
Oh, no.
We have
compared
5.
to you guys, yeah.
I'm just kidding. All right, so you got 27 employees.
27 employees. We have 14 brands using our product. Mm-hmm. One of those brands being over 300 locations, which is pretty awesome.
And a brand would be, okay, so that one's got 300, so you've got 14. And do all of the locations in each brand use it, or is it, okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Every location within the brand uses it.
Okay.
And once they had those brands up and running and humming and very, very happy with the product, then they decided, okay, it's go time. And so I was approached to come on board. And after a little blip I had over the summer, I was super happy. And again, I said this earlier, I am a firm believer that what you put out, you get back. And everything happens for a reason. And I think that blip happened because I was supposed to wind up at Touchpoint. The culture's incredible. Israel and Sarah, the founders are amazing humans.
Married? Are they a couple? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Israel and Sarah. Okay.
They're amazing humans. They care about people. They care about restaurants. And they really just want to put a phenomenal product in the marketplace.
Where are they?
They Southern California.
Okay.
Yep, Southern California, and then they spend some time in Italy as well.
And are y'all spread around, or is...
We are. Everybody's spread around. We've got people in Germany. Okay. We have people in Canada. We have people up in the Midwest, California. I'm here in South Carolina. So yeah, we're all spread around.
What's the ideal customer type?
You know, it's interesting because in the last 20 days, like we've been really trying to figure that out. And one of the things that I've noticed is people are really creatures of habit. And a lot of people think, all right, our tech is broken, so we need to replace our POS system. And so they go out and they start vetting all these point of sale systems. And they decide that they're going to place their point of sale system, but then they want to connect all of the things that they had connected to the old point of sale system and think that they are solving for all their problems. Mm-hmm. Sadly, it's not always the point of sale system that's creating all of the issues. It's the point of sale system plus the integration to loyalty, or it's the point of sale system plus the integration to scheduling and time management, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of things that you got to look at. It's kind of like buying a new car with like flat tires and messed up brakes.
Yeah, right.
Right? So you got to look at that as a kind of a holistic approach. And so what we're learning is that the older brands that have been around for a longer time have a difficult time really wrapping their arms around how different Touchpoint is, right? Because they have habits that they have to change. Instead of having 10 vendors to do the things that Touchpoint does, you can have one.
Yeah.
One vendor to deal with that can do all of those things that I mentioned earlier, which is kind of incredible. And a lot of people are just going, well, I don't want to have everything on one platform. Well, why? Because you've always been told that you need all these different vendors.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
If it works, it works. You don't really need to piecemeal all this stuff together. So what I'm learning in this process, and again, I talked about this earlier, Laura, you learn, right? Every job you learn. Emerging brands that have a very aggressive growth strategy is a great fit for us. QSR, fast casual, is really where we're focusing. We will be launching a table service, full service piece to our platform, probably like end of Q1. I've already seen it. I've already played with it. I have a demo. It's really kind of sexy already, but they just want to make it better before we take it to market. So that's kind of fun to think about because I love the full service space. But so fast casual QSR is where we're focused today. And really the 20 location and growing up to, we're not going to turn anybody away, but like we don't have to do business with everybody. We're not going to be your cheapest.
Yeah.
We're not going to make a bunch of promises that we're going to develop a bunch of tech for you. We have zero tech debt today. And that's really, really fun to say and takes a lot of weight off my shoulders because tech debt is no fun. But we're not going to make a bunch of promises to
tech debt.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means
that means in order to get your business, I need to build this feature and I need to
gotcha.
do this integration and I need to do this and do this. And now I've just loaded up all my engineers with like a bunch of tasks that they need to do in order to make this client happy. Look, there's no perfect point of sale system out there.
Yeah.
POS systems are built for the masses. And unfortunately, brands sometimes have to change the way they do business in order for a product to work well for them. You're changing what you're coming from because it's not working. And then brands want your product to behave in the same manner that they're coming from. And it just doesn't make any sense. So we have an amazing product today. We're not going to get ourselves into a tech debt issue. We're not for everybody. And that's okay. We're totally fine with that because we will be for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to find those people that we're a good fit for.
So when you get into full service, then, let me take a step back. As you are now, who are your main competitors? Who do you see in the places
it's really interesting because if you look at Touchpoint from like our full ecosystem, we don't necessarily have a competitor that is doing everything that we're doing today from a native perspective.
Okay.
Now, can they do the things that we're doing with some integrations to third parties? Yes, but that's not a native and it doesn't give you that full omni-channel experience. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to say we do not have a direct competitor that can do all the things that we can do today natively.
Gotcha.
Now, taking a step back from that, I would say that Q would be a competitor of ours. I would say that Rebel is a competitor, but they have their own issues going on right now with their acquisition. I would say, I would kind of say Toast, I guess.
That's not really their focus.
Their Toast is interesting. I feel like they're always kind of moving and shaking a little bit, and it's hard to really figure out like what are they focusing on today.
Yeah.
But we do. Look, Toast has done an amazing job. Like they've crushed the market. You and I were just talking about this at lunch. Like if you're in a big city, any restaurant you go into has Toast. They've done a great job. They've done a great job marketing their product, and for the most part, I think most of their clients are pretty happy. So kudos to the Toast team. I'm friends with a lot of those guys over there, so kudos to them. They've done a great job. I don't necessarily consider them a big competitor though, but I think it's going to be Q and Rebel. There's a new player out on the market. They've been out for maybe 2 years, year and a half, called Crisp.
Never heard of them.
Yep, they're from Utah. They want to try to compete. We'll see.
Hey, y'all, running a restaurant, as we all know, is no easy task, but Webstaurant Store has your back. From heavy-duty equipment to everyday kitchen essentials, we've got everything you need to stay stocked all year long. And right now, you can save $50 on your order of $250 or more when you use the code WebSave50 at checkout. That's WEBSAVE50, WebSave50. But hurry, this offer is only available until December 31st. Visit webstaurantstore.com today to snag some savings. And y'all, I'll throw in this piece. That's what they asked me to say. These folks are awesome to work with. They have a great website, highly regarded, a lot of happy customers, and we're super stoked to have them as a sponsor. So go check them out, webstaurantstore.com. And again, that code is WebSave50. Thanks. What about, but when you get into full service, that's a whole different ballgame. Why do that, though? I mean, why not just lock in and just crush it with one segment versus now you're going to, I mean, that's.
I think, honestly, Israel and our engineering team love to build tech.
Yeah.
They just love it.
All right.
It's like hobby.
Yeah.
They just love to build cool stuff. And they built this table service and what I've seen so far. And again, we're not ready to sell it. We will be launching it in 2025 because I don't like to sell things that aren't ready to go, right?
Gotcha.
But it's got its own wait list management. It has true full course auto coursing in it. It's got all the dang bells and whistles already. And but they are not about pushing out incomplete products. So but that is exciting. I love the full service space. When I was at Spot On, I worked with some of the best, fanciest full service restaurants in this country. And wow, that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's cool.
Yep.
We're lucky. We serve a lot of those.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Because we have those places don't have, they don't need all of this. Don't let somebody clock in 3 minutes early, and they have professional servers. They're not people calling out, last minute. I don't feel good today, or I'm not feeling it to come to work today. The stuff that, literally, today's just not really a day for me to work. I'm not going to come in. They don't have any of that crap. They just need an easy way to build a schedule, get it to their team.
Yes.
So it's it works really well.
You work with a lot of, one of the spaces that you play in a little bit that I love is the boutique hotel space.
Oh man,
I
love those places.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What a fun space that is.
Absolutely. We do. I love the boutique hotels. They're cool. I like when I get to travel, and if I happen to get to stay in one, that's kind of cool. We like the boutique. We do well where people just need something simple. Yeah, and don't need.
But I love that about you. And you know what? I really respect companies like you guys who know where you fit. You stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. You're unapologetic about it. And you got 10,000 rooftops using your product. That's not
5,200.
Oh, wait, I saw 10,000 somewhere.
Well, somebody commented on a post because I said, I wrote a LinkedIn post. Yeah. And it was over 10,000 restaurant owners have my cell phone. Okay. That's where I got 10,000. That's because, that's why. I wish we had 10,000, but we're fine with 5,200. Whatever. Maybe we'll get to 10,000 one day. The reason I wrote that is because over the 17 years we've been doing this, we've actually had 20,000 customers, right? Yep. And, people grow into us, people outgrow us, people close their doors, whatever. So we've had 20,000 total customers. And about half, I don't know, the last 7 or 8 or 9 years, every single free trial that comes in, I get a text and it says, here's the person's name and their restaurant name and their phone number, and I call them. From your cell phone? Typically almost instantly. And from your flip phone? From my flip phone. And I say, thank you. And I want you to have my cell phone number. And if you need anything, I'm your guy. Well, let's see. I've been sitting with you today since about 1 o'clock. It is now 3:20. Yeah.
And it hasn't rang one time with anybody screaming that the hair is on fire because they
No.
can't schedule somebody and they can't switch a shift and they can't clock in or whatever, all the things. Not
Nope.
one.
Nope.
That's pretty impressive.
No, I was just looking to see if any trials have come in. No, look, my cell phone number is on
The website.
3 pages of our public website.
Yes.
And no, it's but that goes back to we have this it's just really simple tech, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just does its job.
Yep.
We can't compete with 7 shifts and hot schedules.
I mean, you
and
could if you really wanted
if
to.
if we went and raised a bunch of money and then had a bunch of engineers and built a bunch of product, blah 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 blah. But like,
You know
why
what?
bother? Like, why compete with all that when there's
Well, but here's like the other thing that you have to think about. A lot of that money, and I've lived in that world a couple
Yeah.
of times, right? A lot of that money for those companies, and I think I said this on the post that mentioned you this morning, is if you build tech right, you don't need 500 engineers,
Yeah.
right? You have to just know what you're doing. But a lot of that money that these companies are raising, let's think about what they're using it for. They're not just using it for R&D.
yeah.
They're using it for big, heavy payrolls, big C-suite titles, gigantic marketing budgets. Like some of the money that I see companies spend at these trade shows. I mean, I know how much I used to set up spot-ons trade shows. I know how expensive it is. And that's a lot of money that they're using from these PE firms and VCs and not necessarily investing it all in the tech. So then when they go to push their pricing out for this product that they've built, it's got like all those things built into it.
Yeah.
And really, if they would just do things a little bit more simple, then the product wouldn't be nearly as expensive.
Once you raise that money, it
Got to
has
spend it.
It has to be spent, and it has to grow that top line.
Yeah.
And it has to grow it really, really fast. So, well, I say we can't compete with having all of that stuff. Now, I
Yeah.
would say that the majority of people, I mean, again, like we're really focused on mom and pops and small restaurant groups and, franchisees that have, a few locations or whatever, but they don't need all of that stuff.
No,
And,
I think the one thing that we're seeing the most like need from like a laboring and scheduling standpoint, definitely integration, but mainly because of like in California, and I think we'll start to see it in some of the other states, like especially in the Northeast, is the break enforcement and the lunch enforcement, which makes things get a little bit hairy. I mean, the lawsuits from employees that they didn't get their break in California is seriously out of control. Like
That's
it's
absurd.
I know so many people who own restaurants who like are in lawsuits now because of this. And like it's easily fixed with tech, right?
Yeah.
You put the schedule in, they got to clock in, they got to clock out. Like it forces them in, it forces them out.
Then
but
you
I
got to
think, like,
keep up with all those regulations too. You have to keep up with the laws.
You sure do.
Ain't no freaking way. Like no, because what happens when a law changes and it's not
And you
reflected
don't-
in the
yeah.
tech, and then now you as the technology company is going to get sued when that restaurant gets
Yeah.
Mm-mm,
You
nope.
know, you said something earlier that I want to touch on. I want to take us back there. You said 2025, right? So all this money that's been given out, all these tech companies have taken all this money. VCs want their money, PEs want their money, etc. And you said that we'll start seeing a lot of M&A. You know what I hope don't happen? I hope that when we start seeing all of this M&A and all of this consolidation from like tech companies being pushed together, whatever, or even pushed out, because look, we're going to see some of that. Like, let's just be real. I hope that doesn't come back to the restaurant industry. And what I mean by that is I hope that prices don't increase for the tools that they're using. I hope that doesn't flow downhill to them because going through this whole thing with the pandemic and what it did to the restaurant industry, and then inflation and how that's affected the restaurant industry, not only from all of their goods are more expensive, but traffic is really down in the restaurant industry.
It is.
And they've had a really, really, really hard 4 years.
Yep.
It's been very, very tough. And I hate seeing some of my favorite local places close their doors just because they can't hang on anymore. And I just hope that like the tech boom and then the consolidation from the tech boom and all of the money that was given out, I really, really just hope that doesn't roll downhill and affect them again, because I'm not sure how much more they can take, sadly.
It's the most resilient industry that has ever existed.
You're so right.
And they prove that over and over and over again. It is exhausting between the housing, you got housing crisis.
Yep. We had the labor crisis.
The pandemic. It is absurd how much people that operate in this industry have had to adjust and adapt and change and tweak. And so, I think unfortunately that it will. And that's
really
why I'm not real shy about, like, I'm not saying that venture capital and private equity is bad. I'll say that. I mean, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's necessary, but I know very well a lot of these conversations with CXOs and their VC funders the restaurant is not even part of the equation anymore.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not sitting there going, how can we help restaurants run better or save money? It's how can we get more money from restaurants so that we can get a good return? And
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Sucks.
Right.
I hate that so freaking much. Like, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it because, come on, like you're trying to, like, you're killing these restaurants like death by 1,000 cuts, and soaking them for everything. Yep. And it's like,
their monthly SaaS goes up, hardware's more expensive, their credit card processing fees increase every time they turn around. Like it's crazy.
Every time. And then and the reason I get pissed, right? And the reason I get pissed is because for 15 years now, I've been doing this podcast, and I've had, we've done, I don't know, close to 600 episodes. There's a bunch more that we did before we actually had a podcast.
Right.
Like, we would put audio files on our blog. And I've gotten to know so many of these restaurateurs. I mean, some that have moved on and they outgrew us, but I still stay in touch with them because they're incredible. Like, I stay with them when I travel. Like, I hang out with them outside of, and they're just good, hardworking people. I mean, if you're like really, if you're a true restaurant owner, hospitality is in your veins. It's in your DNA. Yep. Which means that you're always thinking about others. You're thinking about your employees. You're thinking about your customers. You're thinking, like, you're giving everything you have to something that's bigger than yourself that you care a lot about. You're lucky if you take the time to even just take care of yourself and give yourself what you need. So, all due respect.
Yes.
Hats off. And then for these freaking people that are only in it for money, to get rich and have an exit and get a return, screw you. Like, do that to some other industry. Leave restaurant people alone.
I agree.
Like, seriously.
I agree.
Anyway, that's how I feel.
Yep. I agree 100%. I don't know. I just have this soft spot and this love for the restaurant industry. Like, most of us celebrate our biggest moments of our lives at restaurants.
At restaurants, yes.
We connect with old friends at restaurants. Like, it's our entertainment. Like, I mean, when me and my husband go out on a date, like, we're going to our favorite restaurant. We're going to have cocktails and eat great food and, hang out with. We're barflies. We like to go to our favorite fancy restaurants, even the most fancy restaurants in Greenville, and we sit at the bar because we love to chat with other people at the bar, make new friends, and we love to chat with the bartenders. And, it's just such a part of our lives. And to see them just continually get knocked down one time after another, it's like, I don't know, it hurts. And that's the reason why, like, I really hope that through my work and through the things that I provide to restaurants, that I'm making a difference in the people that I get to interact with's lives.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that, if they buy my product and I hope 6 months, a year, 3 years down the road from that, they say, you know what? Chrissy did us right. She was honest with us. She told us what we needed to do to make things operate better. And here we are 3 years later, and she was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I live for.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think it's exciting. What a good time.
Yeah.
For you to be a part of this business.
Yep.
That is very early on and had this opportunity to grow this business, which will have lots of challenges and it'll be a lot of fun. I love the story.
It's like riding a damn
I love the fact. So they bootstrap this thing.
Bootstrap. Yep. Still today. But what I will tell, Israel might kill me for this one. We are a profitable company. We're not in the red.
Yeah.
We're in the black.
Freaking amazing.
And how fun is that?
Yeah.
We don't have any burn.
Welcome to the club. There's not a lot of
high five.
There's not a lot of there's just not. There's not a lot of bootstrap, tech companies in general, restaurant tech companies for sure.
Yeah.
And there could be. You don't have. It's just that you. I feel like it's weird to me. Like I just like there's this thing where I've got to get money because I got to grow. Cause it's just like but for what?
Well, but I think it's because everybody wants to grow so fast.
I know, but why?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know why there's a race.
Why do you have to grow so fast?
I don't know.
Like, what's the point? And I always say it's this weird thing, and everybody that sends, and it's like, well, because we got to have an exit. Okay, but why?
Well, and that's I've had that question asked to me a lot over the past 3 months. Is like, from brands, like, well, what's your exit strategy? And I'm like, what? We're just getting started. We don't have an exit strategy. Our strategy is to provide really, really great tech to great restaurant brands and to help you grow. That's our strategy. We're literally just getting started.
The idea of having an exit strategy I've never understood it.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog post once.
Because that's what people tell us we're supposed to do.
I know, but I wrote this blog post once. So I was like, to me, having an exit strategy with a business is like getting married with having a divorce strategy. It's like in 10 years I'm divorcing. Like what the why even but
what would be your strategy? Are you going to divorce because you found someone else? Are you going to divorce
in 10 years I'm going to divorce you because I'm going to have somebody that's even better looking. Like it's just so weird because it's like then you're never going to I know I'm weird. I'm like an all-in person, but it's like to me it's like
I don't think that's weird. I think that's totally normal.
Go focus on building something amazing.
Yeah.
And if you do, then someday probably somebody's going to say, hey, you want to take a lot of, and you could choose. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You don't have to. That's the whole thing. Like, I'll never forget. Have you ever listened to that podcast called How I Built This?
Mm-mm.
It's by Guy Raz. He's like, it's been around a long time. It's like a PBS podcast or whatever, but so Guy Raz is this dude that would go around and he would interview all these people that have been really successful and that have built great companies. Right. How I built this. Just for what it's worth, Sarah Blakely, Spanx.
Love Sarah Blakely.
That episode is all freaking time. It's so good.
I have like all these things that you've recommended for me to listen to, and now you just added that one to
You
my
got to
list.
listen to that one. She has one. Don't let me forget. I want to tell this story because it was one of my favorite sales stories ever about her. But he talks to the guy who is the 4th generation owner of Yuengling beer. You know Yuengling.
Yeah, Yuengling, yeah.
Now, you know Yuengling is Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's only on the East Coast.
Yep.
They're
They've
out of
never
Pottsville,
distributed out west.
Never gone out west.
Yep.
And so Guy Raz, and by the way, it is now, and it has been, this episode is probably like 8 or 10 years old.
Owned by a big Who bought it? No, still just Yuengling?
It is
Okay.
the largest U.S.-owned brewery
Wow.
because all the other ones are owned by foreign overseas companies.
Yep.
All right. So this dude's fourth generation owner, right?
Wow.
And Guy Raz is like, well, why don't you just sell? You know, you could sell this for billions of dollars.
Right.
And the guy's like, okay, why would I? He's like, well, you'd have billions of dollars. He's like, well, then what would I do? He's like, Guy, look, dude, I got more money than I need. I live 3 minutes from my office. So every day I drive 3 minutes to my office. I love what I do. My children will be the fifth generation. I've got 2 of my 3 kids are now involved in the business. So I'm like mentoring them to hand it to them one day.
I love it.
We are only on the East Coast. And Guy's like, yeah, like, why don't you go further out? He goes, well, because we're not in every market on the East Coast. Why would we bother, going and putting a location out in Denver and going? We're not even in all the markets on the East Coast yet. And we're the largest U.S. Like, we've got, decades and decades ahead. Like, what's the point?
Wow.
Like, why would I give up something I love? And that resonated with me because I've always felt like, I feel like if you can build something that is so valuable that somebody want to pay you a lot of money for it,
Yep.
that might seem appealing. Just like it's the siren song. It's just like, that integration. It sounds really good. But what's going to happen when you sell that business is you're going to be like, sure, you got a lot of money. Now what? Because if you have what it takes to do that, that's not just something you just cut off.
Right.
It's there. It's in there. You're going to want to go do something else. And possibly the next thing you do is not nearly as enjoyable as what you did, and then you start missing it. And I can say that just from a little bit of experience because we sold First Research, and I had an exit, and it seemed really cool. Oh, yeah, and then it sucked because they took our baby and they kind of ruined it, and then it's like, holy crap. And then you're just like, well, great, we did well financially, but like they destroyed this thing. So I lesson learned, no interest.
You know what else is really cool about that story is just like the family legacy.
Yeah.
Like that has disappeared from America.
Totally disappeared.
It's like totally disappeared from America. Like, and this is so on like totally different scale, but like where I live, like just outside of Greenville, like used to be a bunch of family farmlands, like a bunch of, there were the Merritts and the Tripps and the Wigingtons and whatever. And they pretty much owned all the land in like this big community that we live in down outside of Greenville. And, Greenville has grown drastically. It's like on every top list to move to, blah, 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 CNN, here, there, wherever. And so then the developers come in. And then they go to these these family farms, and they offer them all this money for their property. And they sell off a little piece. And then they come back and they sell off another. And then next thing you know, like, there's no more farms in Powdersville.
Yeah.
And then everybody's bitching and complaining because traffic's so bad and schools are overcrowded and this, that, and the other. And it's like these families gave up their legacy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad.
It doesn't happen as much now. I will tout my cousins, and their family business that my granddad started, Brawley Seed Company.
Still keeping it.
Mooresville, North Carolina. He started in 1946 on the GI Bill. My uncle took it over. Now my cousins run it. 3 generations, and I actually pray that I have 3 kids. I would love for one or some or all of them to get involved in that thing one day. And this is a little garden center right outside of downtown Mooresville. And 30 years ago when Lowe's came, Lowe's is literally headquartered in Mooresville, right? Like Lowe's Home Improvement. And they've got and I remember thinking, they're done. Like they'll never, but you know what? They lean into what can Lowe's not do? Authentic, hyper-focused customer service, fun, genuine, not pretentious, helpful. They just lean into that, and they are freaking thriving because you know what? People always are attracted to it. Will they take that and grow it? Nope. But you know what? They love what they do. They're happy. They got everything they need. Life is good.
You know what? There's something fulfilling about that.
Hell yeah, there is.
There's something really, really fulfilling about that.
Absolutely.
Loving what you do is so incredibly important.
It's extremely important. I mean, we only got so much time. Like, wake up and hate what you do. Like, for what?
I know.
Like, for what? Well, so Chrissy, okay. So you've been here at Touch. So it's been less than a year.
Oh, it's been like 125 days.
125 days. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
So
All
super
right.
short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what do you spend most of your time doing? And I'll preface that with when you got here. I love this.
Yeah.
I love it. It's classic salesperson. Like, you drive up,
Yep.
you get out of the car, and we're walking. You're like, "Hey, I gotta jump in there and get on a call."
Yeah.
And you were talking to some CTO at some brand.
Yeah.
So, do you spend most of your days doing outbound sales? Do you all have a lot of inbound? Like, what do you spend most of your time doing?
Well, so this time of year is hard,
Yeah.
right? Because like the restaurant industry is busy, and you really just want to like leave them alone to let them focus on all the big orders, all the Christmas parties, all the caterings, like all their gift card sales, right? Because now is when they're making that little stash that's going to carry them through January, because January sucks for the restaurant industry. And so you get a lot of circle backs.
Yeah.
Did you see my funny post on LinkedIn with the Christmas trees?
No, I didn't. What did you put?
Well, it was the funniest thing ever. I posted on LinkedIn, I think like 2 or 3 days ago. I was like, okay, guys, from today until January 1st, every time you hear, let's circle back after the holidays, I want you to come to this post and put a Christmas tree emoji.
That's freaking hilarious. I love it.
And whoever has the most Christmas tree emojis at the end of this period, I'm going to send you a really nice gift. And it went nuts. Everybody was like messaging me, and they were dropping
awesome.
emojis.
I love
it was so funny. And I hope that everybody keeps up with that over the next couple of weeks, because it's a lot of fun. But anyways, so because this time of year, so what I've been focused on the last couple of weeks is just, you know what? My whole goal is to have people know who Touchpoint is. That's my biggest hurdle right now. We're new to the space. A lot of people are like, who are you? What do you do? What are you guys are doing? I've never heard of Touchpoint. Who's using you? All this stuff. So my big thing that I'm trying to do right now is all of my friends that are in the industry that work for labor and scheduling management, work for Restaurant 365, work for TimeForge, work for, all the partners out there that are selling software. I want them to put their eyes on my product so they can see how awesome it is. Because if they hear somebody saying, we're starting to evaluate this or we're starting to evaluate that, hopefully they would say, look, I don't know a ton about Touchpoint, but I know Chrissy, and maybe you should take a look at their product. Also, I know I was ragging on consultants yesterday, but I do like consultants. So let me just put that out there and clear that air. But I think as a consultant, you have to be extremely unbiased.
Yeah.
You can't claim to be a consultant when you have a couple of companies that are patting your pocket because you're sending all your clients to them.
Yeah.
That is not fair ball game, and it's not fair to the restaurant that you are supposed to be servicing.
Yeah.
It's kind of bullcrap. So, and I will continue to ride that soapbox.
Well, I agree with that. We've had in the past, we've had consultants call us and offer to recommend us, but they would expect a revenue share or whatever. I'm like, hey,
Sure.
Look, here's the thing. First of all, we don't charge enough money to do any revenue share that's going to matter to you.
I'll give you 10 pennies.
But I tend to believe that if you're making a recommendation and you tell the customer, I've got no skin in the game in this. Yep. This is a recommendation. That's going to build your trust with them and give you more credibility with them.
Now, look, I'm not opposed to referral relationships where you are giving a referral fee. What I am very opposed of is.
But I'm talking about consultants
that are
supposed to be independent.
Sure. Consultants that are getting referral fees, because you should, if somebody's pitching your product and that sort of thing. But I think as a consultant, you got to look at the company. What problem is it that they're trying to solve for? And then you have to know the products well enough that have the potential to solve that problem. And then you got to give them the best solution possible, not the solution that's padding your pocket.
Right.
So
that's
big
exactly
difference.
Right.
And, if you're a consultant and you have 5 POS vendors, great. But give your client the POS that is going to solve their problems, that is going to help them grow, not just the POS that's going to pay you the most money.
I'd say just freaking be honest if you're getting paid. I mean, look.
I don't mind that.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
part
just
doesn't bother me.
No, but be honest.
But be honest and be fair.
Yeah.
And do the right thing by the client.
Yeah.
Don't just pitch one or two products.
Yeah.
Because one size does not fit all in this space. I'm sorry.
Well, it doesn't. That's the thing. Like, I tell people call and they're like, "Why are you better than so and so?" I'm like, "Oh, no. Like, I don't know if we are better. Like, for your situation, we may not be.
Yeah.
Here's what we're good at. Like,
and I think
if you
I
want
said that
those
earlier.
things,
Yep.
we're awesome. If you
said
need
that
this,
earlier.
this, and this, we're not going to be like. You should go try any of because there's like this bucket of all these other, in our space, like all these
Sure.
other competitors, and they all do a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And then if you need all that, like, go talk to all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to try to, tell you I can make you happy.
Yeah.
And I think you are smart too. You said like you don't have to serve. Just
We're not going to be a perfect fit for everybody,
you
and that's okay.
You can't I know. I mean, you had some positive things to say about Toast, and they fine. I mean, they've done a good job, but eventually, this stuff starts to come back around. You can't just go out and be all things to all people and make everybody
we're
happy.
trying to be a lot of things to a lot of people at Touchpoint. And I used to really never, like I've been like on this crazy roller coaster with that because Spot On had a pretty robust platform. And then I was like, wait a minute, does it make sense to do that? And then I had like some different thoughts about it for a little while. And then when I came to Touchpoint and I saw literally why you would put it all on one platform and the customer experience and then the restaurant operators experience and then all of the true clean data you get from it for being on all the same platform, then I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, now this really does make a lot of sense.
Sure.
Because everybody's just talking about data and we want the data and we want the data. And my favorite question to ask people, because I can get a little challenging when it comes to like the sales process. I like to challenge people, right? Because I want to make them think.
Yeah.
We got to have all of our data. Okay, well, what does that mean? And then what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Nobody can ever answer that question.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we want to market with it. Okay, great. How? Like, you got to get a little bit more granular.
Yeah.
When you're asking people for things, you got to know what do you plan on doing with it? Because maybe what you're planning on doing with it, we can't give it to you in that manner. So now we're not a fit.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to drill down far enough into the questions and the answers to be able to truly understand. And I think that's a big thing that's missing in the sales process, right? It's big and it's beautiful and it's glossy and it's shiny, but nobody really gets down into the nitty gritty of really
One of
what's
the
out there.
best lessons I ever learned about sales was it was this guy taught me ask why like a 5-year-old. Why?
That's so funny.
Yeah, but why?
Yes.
Make them keep, we want the data.
It's
Why?
my favorite question.
Well, because why?
It's my
And then
favorite
eventually
question.
they're like, because it is. It's like a 5. Yeah, but why? And like then they get to the point where they don't really know and they can't really explain it. And you go, okay.
That's right.
So now let's start here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is the absolute best question
Yeah.
for the sales process. And you have to be able to ask why. Because until you're able to do that, you're never going to get the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your new podcast.
I am so excited about it. We are having so much fun. We're having so much fun. You know what's really great about it is like just being able to connect with people and talk about like life.
What's your podcast called?
Bite Size and Bossy.
There we go. Bite, Size, and Bossy.
BYTE. Bite, Sized, and Bossy. So you know what? I've thought about doing this for a long time and tossed around a couple of ideas and connected with Tammy Billings and Aaron Lebzo. Tammy is a consultant in the space, and she's primarily consulting for one company called Signal Flare. And she's been consulting with them directly for a while now. And then Aaron Lebzo also is a consultant. Aaron is a very, very accomplished chief marketing officer. She's worked on the brand side for a very, very long time. She is a credible human. Tammy's a great human as well. And so we were chatting up at like an event, and we were kind of talking about things about the industry that we don't necessarily love. And I always just want to make a difference, and like however I can do that, right? And so I honestly could not tell you like exactly when we said, okay, let's start a podcast. But somehow we decided that we were going to start a podcast, and it's a female forward, right? We will have some of our male allies on at some point in the future, just not right now. But we wanted to start a podcast for a couple of different reasons. Number one, being a working mom is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, all of the mom hustlers out there, kudos to you. But you're being Santa Claus, you're being a candy baker and a cookie baker, and you're dressing your kid up for all these crazy things that they're doing at school, and you're buying teacher gifts and bus driver gifts and, shopping for your husband and your kids' friends, and you're doing all these things. Plus you're hustling every day because you got a job and a full-time job. And so balancing being a mom, like we want to talk about it because it's not talked about a lot. Everybody just expects us to be all these things, and don't be emotional about it, right? Because God forbid a female's emotional. And then we want to talk about like the journey. Like we're in a male-dominated industry. Men run restaurants.
Yeah.
99% of my phone calls and my Zooms are with men, which doesn't bother me. I can hold my own. I have no problem with that. Like I'm used to it. I was in the payment space, and like in the early days of the payment space, I was like, when I would go to a conference, I'd be like 1 in 10 women out of 450. So it doesn't bother me. But it's a challenge and it's hard. And, kudos to those female CTOs out there because they're far and few between.
Yeah.
And that's a tough job. But so challenging, the challenges of being in a male-dominated industry, the challenges of being a mom and being a hustler at the same time, traveling while your kids are, elementary school and middle school. It's hard. So we want to talk about those real life things and put them out there. And we want a podcast that's lighthearted and entertaining and fun. And we're giving women a platform to tell their story as to how they got to where they are today when we interview them. And it's not just the C-suite that we're going to talk to and that we're talking to already. It's the account executive who just started at the tech company that's calling on the CTOs or the marketing folks. It's the director that moved from being account executive, or it's the brand manager for a 1,000 location brand. So we want to highlight everybody. We want to give them space to tell their story. And if along the way, Aaron, Tammy, and I can be a mentor to them and help drag them along, we're really, really excited to do it.
Would y'all have independent restaurant owners, female restaurant owners?
Yes, we want everybody. We want everybody to tell their story.
I would recommend you talk to that I've had on before. We did this series. It's been a few years, but we had this series on this podcast called Rockstar Women of Restaurants, and we would get I would get 3 female restaurant owners from around the country.
Yeah.
That don't have no connection to each other other than they just happen to be schedule fly customers.
Sure.
And we would just do we did it via Zoom.
Yeah.
And they would just share their stories and talk and anyway, I've got some awesome ones.
Yeah, I also would love to connect. I know that you did a podcast recently with a restaurant owner out of Chimney Rock.
Megan. Yeah.
Megan.
Yeah.
I would love to chat with Megan, and I would love to have her on the podcast to tell her story and kind of like how she's kind of overcoming that. the devastation of Hurricane Helene and Chimney Rock. And I actually listened. It brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Because again, one more thing that restaurant owners have been hit with that's like completely out of their control. It's like wild.
Hey, can you rebuild, Megan? No, I can't, Wil, because the river is now where my real estate used to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I just texted Megan the other day. I'm
We'd
sure
love to
she'd
have
love
her.
to have.
But yeah, so Bite Size and Bossy, we're really, really, really close to launching our very first episode. We wanted to make sure that we had several episodes like already recorded so that we could release one after another to keep it hot and get our viewership up. You can go to our website, bitesizeandbossy.com. And if you are interested in being on our podcast, drop us a note there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn because I'm a crazy LinkedIn person. I'm always checking that thing. And that's Chrissy Ouellette, Ouellette. And then you can also message us on Instagram. We do have an Instagram as well, Bite Size and Bossy. But yeah, we're really, really, really excited. We're gonna we've done a couple of live recordings already, like on location at some shows, and that's one thing that we definitely want to continue to do. So we got some of those coming up in February at the Women in Restaurant Leadership Conference that we're super excited to go to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
What else? Have we not talked about anything we should talk about?
You know what? This is kind of fun. Last year at the same time, I recorded a podcast with Nabil from Lunchbox, and it was kind of like a year-end recap. And I kind of feel like that's what we've done here today is just a little bit of recap my year a little bit. It's been lots of has happened this year, and it's been a lot of fun. And you know what? I just I think it's important to say that a lot of people don't necessarily get to know me on a deeper level. I'm always moving 100 miles an hour. But I'm like so grateful. Try not to get a little emotional. I'm grateful for my opportunities that I have I've been given and I've worked hard for, and I'm grateful for like my friends in the industry because they really have become family to me, and super grateful to my family who's like supported me. My husband is like freaking rock star. He has propped me up and he has filled in my gaps, and without him I really wouldn't be nearly as what I think I'm successful today without him, because he really, really is my biggest cheerleader. So it's been a great year. It's been challenging. It has been easy, and I hope that I've worked hard to set myself up for a great 2025 and really put Touchpoint on the map.
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad we got to do this. Chrissy, the coal miner's daughter who roller skated across the parking lot and got the hospitality bug, and here we are today.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What a cool story. I'm real glad. I've always enjoyed hanging out with you, catching up with you. I will say to Israel, and his wife's name is Sarah.
Sarah, yeah.
Y'all got a winner, and I can tell you that she is, I can tell how happy she is. Yeah. Genuinely, just hanging out with her, talking to her the last couple months and hanging out there eating lunch. So y'all did well. And thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bite Size and Bossy.
Yes.
Check it out. And what's Touchpoint's website?
Touchpoint.io.
Touchpoint.io. Check it out. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Give this podcast a rating or a thumbs up or a comment. Do the same with Bite Size and Bossy. When's the first episode coming out?
Before Christmas.
Before Christmas. All right, y'all.
It's going to be our Christmas gift to the industry.
Cool. All right. You heard it first here.
All right. Thanks.
That's it.